بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أفضل المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وبعد. We saw now what happened and how the actions of Arnott, right, trying to attack the Prophet ﷺ was the very reason why the Ummah united, right? And it was a game changer because it led to this battle of Hittin, and the consequences of this battle is so great. Why? It was not just one victory. This was the unified forces of the Franks in the region. After the battle of Hittin, there were not many left of the Franks to defend the cities. And people realized that after this battle, the road to Jerusalem is open. And Salahuddin then was under this, what should we do next, right? The heart said, everybody was what? Jerusalem. You defeated them. The king of Jerusalem is in your hands. It's time to get Al-Quds back, right? Salahuddin's decision was different. What do you think his decision was? He did not go for Jerusalem. Why? When you look to the map, Jerusalem is inland, right? All the cities on the coast, like Akka, Yafa, Qaysariya, Asqalan, right? Salahuddin said, no, we will first go for all the coastal cities before Jerusalem. Why do you think that's the case? Any resources? Yeah, but that's not the main reason. It's a strategic reason. I want you to think. Think ahead. Okay, think ahead meaning what? I just defeated the Crusades. I just defeated the king. What is the counter-attack? What will happen in Europe? When they send more Crusades, where are they going to land? By the coast. So the proper thing is what? I need to deprive them. First of all, if I take all the coastal cities, they're cut from Europe. Jerusalem is isolated inside, and Europe cannot resupply with ease. Do you see the move? He's predicting a counter move. He's predicting, now that I'm victorious, it will not end. This is not the end. People think the greatest victory of Salahuddin is the Battle of Hittin, and it's great. But the greatest victory of Salahuddin is yet to come. Right? So his decision with the military leaders was no, not Jerusalem. The heart says Jerusalem. Emotionally, everybody emotionally was telling him Jerusalem. The reason for a no is what? I know what will happen with the Muslims, game theory, right? If we liberate Jerusalem, most of the soldiers will do what? After we liberate Jerusalem? Khalas, leave. Try to tell them, continue, ya akhi, khalas, alhamdulillah, right? But if I start with those cities, and then later I tell them, nobody will leave before Jerusalem. You see how he's thinking? Right? So the heart, the emotions is Jerusalem. Logic. Ma'alat, probabilistic outcome says, not the right move. The right move is to take the coastal cities first. So Salahuddin orders all his troops. He divides them. Sends Taqiyuddin to Akka, orders the Egyptian fleet to come attack Asqalan. He himself goes to Qaysariya. And his method was very interesting. He would go, very interesting. He would tell them, I don't want bloodshed. Surrender the city, you go in peace. The response was as usual, always the following. No, we resist. They start fighting. Salahuddin breaks the wall. The moment he's about to storm the city, they send to him peace. And Salahuddin would agree. And all of them, Salahuddin would let them go for nothing. Everybody that fought is, yalla, deliver the city, go. I'm not interested in bloodshed. Which again was his character, right? Go, just deliver the city, go, right? And city after city started falling to the forces of Salahuddin, right? In this period, all the cities fell, Asqalan, Yafa, Qaysariya, Akka, Saida, Beirut. One city resisted, the city of Sur. What happened? An Italian knight by the name of Conrad, they were about to surrender the city. He just came fresh from Italy. And he said, what surrender? We will not surrender. Forces are coming from Europe. I know we're going to be resupplied. Hold your ground. And then he dug, the city is by the coast. He dug 2 trenches from the Mediterranean around the city. You remember the Malta idea, right? And there's only a small bridge area, like the access. So the city was very well fortified. And Salahuddin insisted, gather all the forces, we will not leave that city. And the siege dragged. And winter is coming. His brother came to him and told him, you are getting sick. The man has been fighting for more than 10 years, right? Literally. And his health is not that great. So his brother said, I ask you by Allah, this army that you have, they really love you. They're united because of you. If something happens to you, we will lose the opportunity. And he said, please, let's go for Jerusalem, and I promise you, after Jerusalem, we will come back, and we will take, it's only one city, we will take it, don't worry about it. And Salahuddin makes, shura, and that's the opinion of the majority, so Salahuddin goes with it. Though he tells them, I don't think it's the right move. But this is what everybody decides, he goes with it. And then the news is announced in the Ummah. The Muslims are going to liberate Jerusalem. All the scholars of the time, like as I said before, Qudama, everybody came. Everybody, because people are yearning for what? Al-Aqsa, finally. This is the army that's going to liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? And Salahuddin had a massive army. And they go for the city of Jerusalem. But something happened in the city of Jerusalem. All the people that Salahuddin freed, where do you think they went? Jerusalem. They went to Jerusalem. So Jerusalem had so many people inside, right? But he has the commanders, he has the king, right? So they had tons of people inside. And Salahuddin sends a letter to them. Says, listen, I'm not interested in bloodshed. Deliver the city in peace. And everybody's safe. We don't want bloodshed. You know I have a big army and I can take the city by storm. Don't let me do that. And I promise everybody will be spared. The response was they insulted Salahuddin, they insulted Islam, they insulted, to the extent Salahuddin swore, I will have to take the city by the sword. Right? And then the siege starts around the city. At that point, Balian, the master of the hospitalers, right, came to Salahuddin. He had a request. He said, my wife is still in the city of Jerusalem. And I know what's going to happen. He's a warrior, right? I know what's going to happen. I want to get her out. But I need your permission because you surrounded the city. Please give me permission to go into the city and get my wife out. And Salahuddin agrees. He says under two conditions. One, you go in, you stay only for 3 days. 2, you do not fight against it. And he promised, I will abide by that. I will not, just let me get my wife out. He goes inside the city, people recognize him. Balian, the great knight, the master of the hospitaler order, you're here, you should lead the defense against Salahuddin. And he says, but I gave him my word. I gave him a word and a promise. The response from the religious leaders, what is a word for an infidel? ما علينا في الأميين من سبيل, right? ما علينا في الأميين سبيل, right? Of course you can violate your word. Your duty is to Christ. Your duty is to the church. Your duty calls upon you. Of course, those are infidels. And Balian was so disgusted by the honor of Salahuddin, and he sends a letter to Salahuddin, telling him, I know I gave you my word not to fight against you, but they tell me that duty calls that I must fight against you. And what do I do? And Salahuddin responds, if duty calls you to it, if your religion commands you like that, so be it. You're absolved from your promise. And he responds, what about my wife? I don't want her here. The response of Salahuddin, as for your wife, let her come out. I will provide a Muslim garrison, Muslim mujahideen, to take your wife to whatever city you want. She will not be touched. I will provide an escort for her. Chivalry, Salahuddin. This is men. This is who Salahuddin is. Right? This is why he touched people. And indeed, she comes out, met with Salahuddin, gives her gifts, right? Provides Muslim escort, his soldiers, accompany her all the way to the city of Sur. Make sure she's safe. Nobody should touch the wife of Balian who's fighting against him. Chivalry, right? Men. And the battle starts. And Salahuddin orders catapults, and they start bombing the city wall, and the Muslims attack, and the attack is repulsed for the first week. Then the engineers roam the city, and they figure out there is a weak corner in the northeastern district of the city. So Salahuddin withdraws and decides to attack one area only. And in one night, more than 40 trebuchets, trebuchets are catapults. It's a counterweight sling. I can show it to you, it's very interesting. 40 of them. And he starts throwing sand, why? So that people can't look up, right? And massive arrows. It's like, it's said like by one of them that when the arrows were fired by Salahuddin's army, they masked the sun. Can you imagine? It's like a cloud. Right? So like you see the sun and all of a sudden there is shade. The arrows are coming, right? And what he did is this is a cover. Now the Muslim engineers, the engineering brigade, covered with what they call the tank at that time, go to the wall. And what was the technique that they used? We said it before. Dig under the wall, go, put some wood, burn the wood, and the wall fell. And it was like 30 meters of the wall. Now there is a breach, and they can see the city from outside. And the Franks realize what's going to happen. And they realize, what will Salahuddin do? We know what we did to them. Remember? Salahuddin knows what happened. That's why we discussed this. When you came and took the city, what you did to the Muslims. And now they're terrified. What is he going to do? Is it an eye for an eye? Now we insulted him, he's storming the city, there is a breach. So they asked Balian, go, a treaty. Go appeal to Salahuddin. So Balian goes and tells Salahuddin, we want peace. And he says, after what? You insulted me, I breached the city, everything is clear, what peace? Right? So Balian tells him the following. If you do not agree, here is what we're going to do. We are going to destroy every single thing in the city. The temple, the church, and your mosque. And we're going to kill everything. We're going to kill our own women and children. We have 3,000 Muslim prisoners. We're going to kill everybody. And we're going to set the city, the whole city on fire. Then we're going to go out, fight you, and we'll all die. Then you can take the city. And Salahuddin realized, is it a bluff? Will they do that? So he went to the scholars. And all the scholars agreed, it's not worth it. You made a promise to take the city by the sword, you already did. You broke, give them what they want. Let's take the city in peace. It's not worth killing all those people and destroying. Take the city in peace, it's okay. And Salahuddin agrees. He says, granted. People objected. Who objected? The financial advisors of Salahuddin. You're going to let them go for free? We spend so much money on this campaign, right? And then they know there is more than 200,000 people inside the city. So, can you take 1 dinar from every person? Just one. 200,000, you see the idea, right? So please, just write in your treaty that everybody will be free, just 1 dinar. If they're poor, like 10 dirhams, right? But take something from them, so money, right? And Salahuddin adds the condition, they agree. Just 1 dinar, and you can take anything. You're free to go wherever you want, and you're safe. And even some of them, Salahuddin said, if you want to go to Europe, I'll provide ships. I'll escort you all the way to Alexandria, they will take you to Europe. Go if you want, right? So peace is granted. But people were doubtful. Will he? Is it a trap? Will he really fulfill his promise? The Muslims are really angry about what we did, right? And the day comes, and the doors open. And Salahuddin's soldiers are standing, with Salahuddin himself and his brother. And people go out, they pay 1 dinar and they leave. They pay 1 dinar and they leave. And people realize the man is fulfilling his promise. So people amassed, the rich people started going out. And they started going out with their wealth, right? To the extent the patriarch of Jerusalem, the head of the church, right? Came out with the wealth of the church, not his personal wealth, the wealth of the church? Piles of gold, right? And he's coming out. And Qutbuddin al-Naysaburi tells Salahuddin, look at this man. This is not his personal wealth. And look at that. There are poor people in the city. They don't have money. And they're trapped and he's not helping them. What kind of religious person is this? He was so disgusted of this person. And he said, this is not his personal belongings. Confiscate this. It's not the agreement. Salahuddin's response said, no. Let people know that Muslims never betray their word. They will remember that for us. See, winning the heart. I'm a Muslim. I have principles. They're not principles. They have 0 principles. I'm not like them. They're not my teachers. Let them know that when a Muslim says something, we do not betray. I said they can go out, they can go out. And the man leaves with the wealth. At this point, the brother of Salahuddin comes to him. Tells him, Ya Salahuddin, here is 1,000 dinar. What? Says, those poor people, nobody's paying for them. I am paying for 1,000 poor people. Let them out. And Salahuddin announces, anybody who's poor, Anybody who does not have wealth comes to me personally. I'll take care of you. And people come to Salahuddin. I don't have money. He says, here, pay. And he started giving money to the poor of the Franks. And they started leaving. And to his surprise, a Frankish woman came to him and started yelling at Salahuddin, calling him names. Yeah, you oppressor, murderer, oppressor, murderer. And people were really offended. This is the Sultan, the liberator. How dare you, right? And she said, you killed my father in the Battle of Hattin. And my husband is a prisoner of yours. And now you're asking me to pay 1 dinar. Murderer. And Salahuddin says, leave her alone. And then he says the following. As for your husband, where is he? Bring the prisoners. He is free for your sake. As for your 1 dinar, I am paying it for you. As for your dad, he died in an unjust battle that he started. And the woman was shocked. And then she said the following. Sir, I'm sorry. May God curse the ones that told us lie about you. I hope you are not what I thought you are. They told us infidels. They told us terrorists. They told us, may God curse the ones, the media that lied to us. I know who you are. Forgive me. Salahuddin announces, are there cases like that? And he goes and he sees a group of women crying. And he asks, why are they crying? Notice his heart. And they say, well, those are the wives of the soldiers that you killed or captured in the Battle of Hattin. So Salahuddin announces, any woman whose husband died fighting Salahuddin comes to me. I'm giving her the 1 dinar and I'm giving her gifts. Any woman that her husband is a prisoner of mine and she has a child, comes, picks her husband, he's free for her and her child. And he starts liberating prisoners for like that, without anything. It really touched the hearts of people. And then the day comes. Everybody comes out in peace. And the day comes where Salahuddin is about to enter the city of Jerusalem. And it happens that Salahuddin enters the city of Jerusalem on Friday, the night of Friday, the 27th of Rajab. Some people recognize what I'm speaking about. What's important about that day? 27th of Rajab is Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. He enters Jerusalem in the same night that the Prophet ﷺ did the journey of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj على الأرجح. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. And he said he enters the city, head down, like the Prophet ﷺ. Tears, peace, nobody's dead, everybody's safe. And he's only interested in one thing. He goes, prays and cries, prays and cries. The hearts of the Muslims yearned to the Aqsa Mosque. And the Muslims rushed to the Aqsa Mosque, they want to pray there. And they were shocked. They found that the Aqsa Mosque has been turned into a toilet. Half of it is a stable, half of it is a toilet. They looked. The Dome of the Rock defiled. Masjid Umar, you know Masjid Umar? You remember when Umar ibn al-Khattab wanted to pray there and he told them no, and he prayed outside and people built masjid called, they destroyed it. So the Muslims were so offended, so they went to Salahuddin, took what they did, and they told Knisat al-Qiyamah, their church, destroy it. The response of Salahuddin, أقرها عمر وأهدمها أنا؟ لا. Umar ibn al-Khattab left this alone. And you want me to destroy it? Never. They are not our teachers. The way Salahuddin entered Jerusalem is the same way Umar ibn al-Khattab entered Jerusalem. And the way Umar ibn al-Khattab entered Jerusalem is the same way the Prophet ﷺ entered Mecca. The teacher of Salahuddin really is Umar ibn al-Khattab. And the teacher of Umar ibn al-Khattab is the Prophet ﷺ. Everybody is safe. And he ordered clean Al-Aqsa Mosque. And the Janat, the warriors, the knights of Salahuddin come with buckets of water and rose water. There is a janitor, and they start rubbing the walls with rose water and purifying it and rugs and preparing the Aqsa Mosque for what? The khutbah. The first khutbah in the Aqsa Mosque. And scholars compete, comes to Salahuddin. The first scholar to give a khutbah, 90 years, the Aqsa Mosque, no adhan, no salah. Can you imagine? And everybody gathers for the khutbah in the Aqsa Mosque. Allah rewards those people that fought so much to be the ones that liberate Jerusalem in such a beautiful way. And the khutbah in the Aqsa Mosque. SubhanAllah. We have the khutbah. If you're interested to, what is the khutbah? Muhyiddin ibn Zaki, the Qadi of Damascus, Salahuddin grants him, and he stands, and a very powerful khutbah he gave. This khutbah is available in Arabic and in English, and those are the links. And Salahuddin remembers his teacher, Nuruddin Zinki. Nuruddin Zinki, before he dies, remember what he did? Remember the pulpit of Nuruddin Zinki? He orders the pulpit of Nuruddin Zinki to come and place it in the Aqsa Mosque. Nuruddin Zinki is the reason why we have Salahuddin. Nuruddin Zinki is greater than Salahuddin. He did not live to see that moment, but he's the one that prepared. And his minbar stayed in Masjid al-Aqsa. Is his minbar still there? It was burned by Israel in the 60s. We're the generation that lost the minbar of Nuruddin Zinki, my generation, unfortunately. And of the things that we lost, this minbar of Nuruddin Zinki got destroyed by one of those fundamentalists, Zionists, right? Burned, right? We lost it. Right? And the khutbah starts, and at the end of the khutbah, by the way, one of the things that Salahuddin did, he went, it said all what he wanted is praise and cries, and he was repeating one verse every time, and the verse was, ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضى. Dear Lord, because this is how we view it, grant me the ability to thank this blessing that you bestowed on me and my fathers, and that I will be able to do good that pleases you. They wrote inside the Dome of the Rock, because Salahuddin ordered the reconstruction of this. أمر بتجديد هذا المحراب المقدس وعمارة المسجد الأقصى الذي هو على التقوى صلاح الدنيا والدين عندما فتحه الله على يديه وهو يسأل الله شكر هذه النعمة وإجزال حظه من المغفرة والرحمة. Ordered the renewal of the Aqsa Mosque and the re-establishment of the mosque, the one that is on taqwa and piety. Salah al-dunya wa deen, the wellness of dunya and deen. That's what Muslims loved him. When Allah opened it on his hands. Notice the words. Not when he opened it. No. When Allah granted him that he opened it on his hands. And he is desperately asking Allah to grant him the ability to thank this favor and to make his share of Allah's forgiveness and mercy plentiful. This is who Salahuddin was. The money that Salahuddin gathers, 200,000 dinars, what do you think happened to it? It was, before he left Jerusalem, all the money was spent. On what? The poor, the schools, the scholars. Everything went away in charity. Not a single penny was left. He spent it on re-establishing the city of Jerusalem again. And that was a monumental moment in history, right? When Salahuddin liberated the city of Jerusalem. One thing that happened after that I find really interesting. So after that, Salahuddin goes to the city of Akka. And Ibn Shaddad narrates something really interesting, very personal. Ibn Shaddad is with him, right? He says, I was with the Sultan after we liberated Jerusalem. We went to the city of Akka. It is winter time. It's very cold. The sea is very rough, right? And he said, I went with him. We stood by the walls and we're looking at the sea. And then Ibn Shaddad tells us what was going on. He said, I looked at the sea. Remember, this is a scholar, right? And he saw the sea was very rough. Waves, and he never saw the sea before, right? It's his first time. It's like, it's very rough and it looks like scary. So I started to think in my head, I'm going to adopt the fiqhi opinion that the witness, the shahada of sailors are not to be accepted. You know what he's thinking? That anybody that goes into in the sea must not be in his right mind. So now the legal opinion of that sailors, you should not accept their shahada because they're insane. I started, I think I agree with that opinion, right? So he's saying, see, like this is the mind of a scholar, right? So he's looking at the sea, this comes to his mind. He's saying at the same time, I'm looking at the Sultan. Salahuddin, and he says the following. Look at the mind of Salahuddin. He looks at Ibn Shaddad and he says, أجد في قلبي متى يسر الله فتح الساحل. I find in my heart that whenever Allah enables me to finish opening all the cities in the coast, and ركبت هذا البحر, I will go into this sea. ووليت الولاة, and I'll give those cities to other rulers, and I'll take my forces, and I will go after those Franks to Europe, till I rid earth from them. See his aspiration? It's not over. They'll come back. I'm working for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if Allah gave me strength, I'm after them. So Ibn Shaddad says, Ya Mawlay, yani, ma ajja'ak, you know, how courageous are you? He's looking at the sea and you're thinking, one is thinking that's crazy, the other guy is looking at the sea and thinking, what, I'm going to go into this, you know. So he's telling him, how courageous are you? Salahuddin responds about the secret. He says, let me ask you this question. Ma ashraf al-mitat. What is the most honorable and most beloved way to die that Allah loves? It says, al-mawt fi sabilillah. Salahuddin cries, it says, وَهَذَا أَسْمَى الْأَمِينَ. And this is what my aspiration is for. When you know Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, of his words, he would tell people the following, مَا أَخَصُّ الْهِمَمْ. How low your aspirations are. What is he speaking about? What do you aspire for? Halal, a degree, to be a president. ما أخص, how low is your aspiration? غاية همة المؤمن العارف بربه باب قربه من الله عز وجل وأن يصل إليه في الدنيا بقلبه قبل الآخرة. The utmost aspiration, the lofty aspiration of the one that knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the door of nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for him to reach him with his heart before he sees him in the hereafter. The aspiration of a believer is what? The pleasure of Allah. That my heart is pure. That I pray with khushu'. That when I have wealth I give. That I please Allah in every. This is the aspiration. Every single else thing I do in life is what? A means to it. Liberating Jerusalem is not my aspiration. My aspiration is higher. What is he speaking about? For what? Shahada, why? To please Allah. If that's my aspiration, I'll find a way. Nothing. If I'm in prison, there is a way to do that. Nothing stops me. This is the Ghayat Himmat al-Mu'min, the teachings of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. So that was an interesting reflection that I found, about Salahuddin. Now, here is the interesting part. What do you think happened in Europe? Remember what we discussed? The news that Jerusalem fell to Salahuddin reached Europe. The response. Irvine II had a heart with the Pope. Had a heart attack and died. Literally. It was so shocking, he couldn't take it, he passed away, right? And they got the new Pope. What do you think the first thing the Pope did? Called to all the kings of Europe. About what? Jerusalem fell to the infidels. And it's the duty of every single king in Europe to head down to Jerusalem to recover what those infidels gained. The response was massive. More than 22 different nations, whole Europe, gathered. They sent a letter to Salahuddin. And the letter was the following. You either give us Jerusalem back, or we are all going to come and we are going to take everything out of your hands. We're not speaking Jerusalem. Everything. The response of Salahuddin. He said, those of you who will set foot onto this land will meet the fate of their brothers in Hattin. No. Right? But then a crusade is happening. So Salahuddin insists on what? Remember, we had a problem. One city, the city of Sur. And Salahuddin orders his forces to gather around the city of Sur. And the city now was well fortified. Conrad fortified the cities. Supplies started happening, right? And the siege dragged, and I have to go quickly. The battle is described in detail. It extends for months. But after months and months passed, and he could not take the city, his commander said, listen, winter is coming. The army is exhausted. And then they used some fiqhi opinion against him. The fiqh was the following. It has been more than 4 months and we're fighting with you. And from a fiqhi perspective, you have to let us go after 4 months. Why?
Why?
You can't. from an Islamic perspective, the maximum time that you can stay away from your wife is 4 months. After that, she has a right of divorce. So look, they're going to divorce us, right? You have to let us go, right? So Salahuddin reluctantly agrees, right? And he knows this is a thorn. This city of Sur is a thorn, right? Before he leaves, some noble woman came to him. The wife of King Guy, the king of Jerusalem, said, can you leave my husband? Can you free him? And he said, yes, walahul aman. One condition, he does not fight me again. He promises not to fight again, says, go free. Another noble lady come, the wife of Arnat. What's the problem? Arnat's son is your prisoner. Can you let him free? And he says, yes, walahul aman. Promises not to fight again. The master of the Templars, that Salahuddin called, can I be set free? Yes, with one condition. You promise not to fight me again. Free. All the people that Salahuddin freed, with this, he won their heart, really. Where do you think they went? The only city left is Sur. So Sur now became what? Hundreds of thousands. The city is not big enough and they're outside, right? And what do you think happened next? What do you think happened? King Guy, the master of the Templars, and Conrad joined their forces and started marching towards the city of Akka. They realized reinforcements are coming on a daily basis from Europe. The kings are coming themselves. We're speaking Richard the Lionheart, Philippe Augustus of France, Frederick Barbarossa of Germany. Kings are coming with their forces. The forces of Germany was estimated to be 200,000 soldiers. Germany by itself, right? So it's endless supply is coming. So it's time for a counterattack. Let's not wait. So they gathered all the soldiers that Salahuddin let go free, that promised not to fight. What's a promise to an infidel? Again, right? And they gathered their forces and head towards the city of Akka. News come to Salahuddin that a force is heading towards the city of Akka. And Salahuddin commands, or his commanders, gather the forces. We have to go. By the time they reached the city of Akka, it was already surrounded by the Franks. So you had the following situation. The city of Akka with 3,000 soldiers inside of Salahuddin under Bahauddin Qarakosh, and then the Franks around it, and then the army of Salahuddin around the Franks. And started one of the fiercest battles in history. It's called the Battle of Akka. This battle was not for 1 or 2 or 3 months. 3 years. 3 years. This is how long it will take, right? So it started, but the way it started was interesting. Salahuddin gathers his forces and he asked the following. We are going to start the attack. When? On Friday. What time? Friday Salah time. Jum'ah. And he commanded and ordered all the shuyukh and fuqaha in his towns. When you are standing on the minbar and we're giving the khutbah, make dua for us. We are going to fight at the time that all the Muslims are making dua for us. Does he believe in power of dua? Yes. Dua is not to be underestimated. Salahuddin used it, even in those situations. Friday comes, and at Jum'ah, the forces of Salahuddin start attacking. The whole day passes, but no advancement. They could not dislodge the Franks. Next day, Saturday morning, after Fajr Salah, Taqiyuddin, this brave knight, the nephew of Salahuddin, right? Brave, really brave knight, took some of the best of the forces of Salahuddin, heads to the beach, and concentrates the attack. Instead of attacking everywhere, forces the attack on one point only. And the whole day passes, and Taqiyuddin succeeds in breaking the siege in the city, and creating a gap, and entering the city. In this battle, more than 10,000 of the Franks died. And they captured the master of the Templars. Remember the one that promised, right? And Salahuddin asked him, how many are you? And he said, 120,000. And yes, Salahuddin did kill him at that point. And the Oriental is like, look, he kills prisoners. And what do you want? What do you want me to say, right? Yes, he freed a lot of people, but when it came to Templars, of course, what? As a matter of fact, Ibn al-Athir, one of the scholars, blames Salahuddin heavily for this battle. He says, he's the one that let them free. He was too lenient. Ibn al-Athir's opinion was what? Don't let them go. because they betrayed their promises. We know why, Ya Salahuddin, did you do that? He actually blames him for it, right? But Salahuddin was what? I'm following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm winning the hearts of people. Nevertheless, so they created a gap and they started entering the city of Akka, right? And at this point, something interesting happened. It was almost daily. The Muslims would pray Fajr, right? And then attack till the end of the night, right? And then next day, Muslim pray Fajr and attack. The Franks noticed this pattern. So one day they decided to, let's attack the Muslims before Fajr. You know, because now they noticed that. So one day, the Muslims are praying Fajr, and to their surprise, the Franks attacked. And they attacked the position of Taqiyuddin towards the north, right? And the Muslims weren't ready. So the forces of Taqiyuddin started to get pushed back. Salahuddin noticed this. So he realized that's a trouble. So he commanded his forces from the center, he was in the center, to go and help Taqiyuddin in the north, right? It is said Taqiyuddin was actually, it was a trap that he wanted to retreat so to get them out, right? But Salahuddin didn't know, so he sent the forces from the center all the way to the north. When that happened, the Franks noticed that the center now is weak and Salahuddin is exposed. So they reoriented the attack and they attacked Salahuddin's position. With his forces, with Taqiyuddin north, there was not many left soldiers, it was mostly volunteers, not well trained. And the Franks attacked and they started pushing the forces of Salahuddin. They reached Salahuddin's tent. And Ibn Shaddad describes the battle, how he saw Salahuddin ordering the drummers, fighting himself, telling people to be steadfast. And they started pushing the center of the forces of Salahuddin all the way, right? And it looked that they're winning. At that moment, Taqiyuddin and Sayfuddin al-Hikari, from the left and the right, they do this famous pincher movement, right? They attack the rear, because when Salahuddin retreated, a gap was created between the knights and the infantry, right? So they closed this gap, captured the knights in the middle, and a huge battle happened. They called it al-Waqa al-Kubra, the great, incident of Akka, right? And the battle raged the entire day. And by the grace of Allah, it ended up with a major victory for the Muslims. The Franks were completely crushed. Tables turned around. And Salahuddin in that battle, it seemed that he won a major victory, right? He trapped them and it looked good. And people said, khalas, next day, we're going to finish them off. We killed so many of them. So you know what? Two problems happened. Next day come, according to Al-Imad al-Asfahani. He describes it in a most interesting. He says, we wake up, we see new soldiers came. We see new people came. We see that their numbers is the same. What do you think is happening? Reinforcements was coming at such a high rate. Ahmed al-Asfani says, our arrows will finish before the reinforcements stop. They had more soldiers than we have arrows, right? So that was, and he said bodies were all over the place. Ibn Shaddad describes, he said, I counted 15,000 bodies of the Franks. Bodies, summer, heat, what do you think happened now? Epidemic, right? An epidemic struck and started spreading among the soldiers. Who got more affected by the epidemic, as we said yesterday? The Franks, because they don't have cleanliness, right? So death was 10 times more in the Franks camp. But they had great numbers. And Salahuddin soldiers started to get sick. Al-Faqih Isa al-Hikari got sick. Salahuddin himself got sick. And indeed, Al-Faqih Isa al-Hikari died from that sickness in the Battle of Akka. And things were serious. And Salahuddin is sick. And people come to him. We can't stay here. It's an epidemic. And he says, but no, I can't let them be. If I leave them, we have to dislodge them. And they tell him, wait, listen, they are in such a dire situation. They can't leave because you surrounded them. Maybe if you leave, you give them space, they will leave too. And Salahuddin responds, no, you don't know those people. He knows them. I leave them, they will fortify their position. It's going to get worse for us. But the doctor of Salahuddin comes and says, this is serious. The army will get infected, you will die, you have to leave. The consensus was, we have to leave, it's an epidemic. And Salahuddin says, you will see what will happen. I know those people. And Salahuddin orders his army to leave into a higher hill, fresher air, so that they can recover from that epidemic. Continuous harassments happen, but he retreated. And Salahuddin now, he realizes the situation in Akka is not good, right? So, what he predicted happened. the Franks did not leave. They fortified their position. They dug trenches, and the sand they got out, they built a sand wall. You get it? So now if Salahuddin wants to attack, there is a trench, they fortified their position. They did not leave. Exactly what Salahuddin predicted. And Salahuddin realizes the situation is getting worse. It has been now over a year by that time. And the supplies are coming, and they're very determined, and we cannot dislodge them. And he asks his brother to come, bring the army of Egypt, right? And indeed, his brother brings the army of Egypt to join Salahuddin. And the army of Egypt comes to the southern part. And to their surprise, the Franks decided to take that army by surprise. As the Egyptian army arrives, they're still making their camp, and because they had camps, as we said, bathroom, marketplace, they have Qudaa, everything, right? As they're making their camp, the Franks charge towards the Egyptians. This is now the new Egyptian army that Salahuddin raised, right? And they weren't prepared. So they pushed them back. Adil, the brother of Salahuddin, again, tactics and strategy. He did a very interesting tactic. He did the following, again, game theory, we were discussing this. He said, okay, I know exactly what to do. Retreat, leave the marketplace as is. Do not remove anything from the market. They have the mobile market with, things, and he said, don't take anything. Retreat, leave it there. What do you think will happen now? I know them. I predict what they will see. The moment they're going to see this, what are they going to do? They're going to be busy with that. Then we attack. And that's exactly what happened. They went in, they weren't expecting this, a marketplace with, merchandise, beautiful things left and right, and the soldiers, of course, got greedy. Everybody's for himself. Everybody's gathering things on top of his shoulder, trying to go back. At that moment, Al-Malik Al-Adil, or like the brother of Salahuddin, attacks. Salahuddin got the news that the forces of Egypt is under attack. Ibn Shaddad describes it. He says he can barely sit from, his ulcers and stuff, and he was very sick. He said the moment the news came, he said he jumped out of his bed, ran, and then jumped on his horse. And Ibn Shaddad said, I was shocked, what's this? And Salahuddin said his famous statement. Because he realized, I'm in pain, yet he said, yes, متى ركبت الجهاد زال الألم حتى أعود. Whenever I ride to fight for the sake of Allah, all pain in my body disappears. Till I come back, then I find it again, right? And then he orders his soldiers, and they attack. And a major battle happens again, right? And in that battle, from the south and from that area, Allah grants victory for the Muslims again. And they crush the Franks. Nevertheless, the problem was what? We can't dislodge them. Reinforcements are coming to Akka daily. Akka is completely surrounded for a year, running out of supplies. Ships are coming. Al-Imad al-Asfahani describes in one day, he describes the scene. He says, I was sitting and I saw the ships arrive. And he said, I counted more than 70 ships. Can you imagine? 1, 2, 3, 300 soldiers on each ship? Multiply, right? He said, this is just one day, right, arriving. He said, I started to get so worried. And then I looked on the face of the Sultan. And he says the following, I did not, with every single ship come, I did not see except that he's more determined and more, I saw from his steadfastness, from his firmness, from his certitude in Allah, that which would make me assured that Allah will bring victory to the Muslims. Scholars said that about him. That when we had doubts, we go and look at him, and he's such firm, resolve, that we look at him and say, he aspires victory in all of us. Nevertheless, now the kings arrived. Richard himself, Philip Augustus, right? And Salahuddin realizes the news even of a German army of 200,000 is coming from Asia Minor. Remember? And they're like, what do we do? Salahuddin does two things. He sends letters to the Muslim Ummah. This is not about Salahuddin. This is about Islam versus Europe. This is not a battle of me. The West, Europe unified its forces on us. It's time for us to unify. He sends one message to the Khalifa himself in Baghdad, telling him, right? And by the way, one of his, he always respected the Khalifa. When he communicated with him, you know how he did? He said, Khadimukum, your servant, by your grace, Allah gave you victory on my hands. He used to speak that way to the Khalifa, right? The Khalifa has nothing at the day, right? So he sends to him, he says, look, everyone unified, come yourself. The Muslims need to see you in the battlefield. They will unify. I'll give you everything, but come. The response of the Khalifa was what? Very interesting. He said, how dare you call yourself Al-Nasr? I am Al-Nasr. That's my title. How dare you call yourself Al-Nasr? And who do you think you are? You did not attain any victory except by my soldiers. And Salahuddin responses is what? His soldiers, where are they? And that's it. He lets it be. He does not fight him. Unity is important, right? He sends a similar letter to Morocco at the time. And they were upset. The Moroccans, by the way, they contributed significantly. Many of the soldiers of Salahuddin and Nuruddin Zinki came from Morocco, right? It's really interesting, right? However, the ruler at the time, same problem. Why didn't you call me Amir al-Mu'mineen? I'm the Khalifa. Didn't come at the end of the day. And Salahuddin was left by himself. The problem was the following. What about the German army that's coming? 200,000. And Salahuddin had to make a decision. What do I do? Should I stay and try to attack Akka or face the new German army reported coming towards Sham? What would I do? And people told him, you can't fight on both, it's impossible. Leave Akka and go fight the 200,000 because they can take our cities. And Salahuddin disagrees. And he sends Taqiyuddin with a part of his forces. You go, fight the Germans, and I will stay here, fight for the city of Akka. And Taqiyuddin takes some of the best knights and goes to meet an army of 200,000. Something amazing happens. Ibn al-Athir narrates this. This was an impossible encounter, really, right? The following happens. The king of the Germans, Frederick Barbarossa, sees one river on the way, decides for a change to take a bath. Right? He goes into the river, guess what happens? He drowns. Nobody knows what happened. The man drowns in the river, right? The interesting thing is, after he drowned, something more amazing happened. His entire army differed. They fought with each other, and then they decided, most of them, to leave and go back to Germany. When you look to this, it doesn't make any sense. This German army was such a dedicated army, they swore that they will never leave their armor. Day and night they go to sleep in their armor, for those who wore this thing. Anybody who makes a small sin, we will be killed. Why? Because they believed we lose because of our sins. So they're highly, you know the Germans, right? Their history, they're very dedicated people. What happened? And this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot attribute it to anything else. When we put all the efforts we can with such sincerity, Allah spared the Muslims an impossible encounter. Allah has soldiers. So that was good news that Salahuddin, received about the campaign, right? I'll keep this letter for later, right? One bad news he received. A letter that came to Salahuddin. He calls everyone and starts crying. What happened? He's in tears. The letter is Taqiyuddin, your nephew, this famous soldier. He just died away in his sleep. Natural death. Young. For no reason known. And Salahuddin loved Taqiyuddin so much. And Ibn Shaddad was there. And he told him, Ya Mawlay, there is no time for this. You don't have the luxury to grieve. We have an issue of the battle of Akka. We have to do something about this battle. And Salahuddin says, you're right, and orders water, washes his face, may Allah forgive me, and starts, let's concentrate on the city of Akka. But the situation in Akka was so dire. It was almost hopeless. At that time, the Franks built a trebuchet, Richard the Lionheart, a trebuchet that's 5 stories high, catapult. So the Muslims' way, their catapults were many and small. So they built 40 of them, right? But like maybe, 10 feet, right? And you throw multiple stones. The Franks spent 2-3 months and they built one trebuchet. But the size, super, mega, right? And the stones that this thing throws, it's like tons of stones, And they started throwing stones at the city of Akka. And a breach started to happen in the walls of the city. The city had some trenches, the Franks started getting the bodies of dead animals and dead people and throw it in the trench to form a bridge so that they can cut. And he realized what's going on. He orders, I'm just describing one of the battles for you, orders his commanders, open the gate. A part of us meets the Franks, the other part have to jump in the trenches in the heat of summer. Do what? Cut the body parts and throw them out. Do you imagine the agony? This is 3 years of this kind of battle, right? But then the wars were breached. And the supplies, we cannot reach the city of Akka. There were many operations, by the way. I don't have time to do that, right? The Battle of Akka is described in details by Ibn Shaddad because he was there, right? So numerous operations happened and tactics that, I don't have time to go over through. But at the end of the day, they realize the city is going to fall. And they sent to Salahuddin. It has been 3 years. We're out of supplies. We're exhausted. Their numbers are still increasing. Give us permission to make agreement. Give us permission to surrender the city. Maybe they will spare us. And Salahuddin refuses. Nothing as surrender. Tomorrow I'm freeing the city. We're attacking. And his commanders is like, it's useless. No, we will free the city. No surrender. No, nothing as such. As they're speaking, they see the Frankish flag goes on top of the city of Akka. The city surrendered. Some of the leaders realized there is no hope. They went to Richard and told him, look, we've been kind to you. If we deliver the city for you, will you allow us to go free? And Richard says, what? Of course, if you deliver the city, all of you are going to go free. And they agreed and they signed the treaty. They delivered the city to Richard. What do you think happened? He was in, he didn't kill them. He captured them and sent to Salahuddin. You want your soldiers? Pay 100,000 dinar and give me the true cross. When the city fell, it is said Salahuddin was like a mother that lost her child. He started crying and the soldiers crying. It was like he was in such agony that a Muslim city fell to the Franks, right? And again, Ibn Shaddad says, we don't have time for this. Focus on the fate of the Muslims inside the city. And he sends to Richard. He says, yes, I'm willing to pay despite you can see the difference, right? I'm willing to pay. You betrayed, but how do I trust you? I pay you 100,000 dinars. How do I trust? And then he sent to the religious people in the Franks, right? Priests. I'm asking you, give me your word that you're going to honor this. And they respond, we cannot trust our rulers. The Christians are saying that. We cannot give you a word because we don't trust them. They might betray. And Salahuddin says, okay, but we need free some and I give you some because I don't know what you're going to do. And he sees the following. Richard gets all the prisoners out. And Salahuddin is watching on a hill, chained. And then orders his knights to attack the 3,000 prisoners and kills everybody in front of Salahuddin. Salahuddin was, as described in Shaddad, furious. After all what we have done, this is how you treat us. Right? They trusted you, you made a deal with them, and you just killed them like that. After everything, the difference between the West and the East. Chivalry is from Salahuddin's side, not from the Frank side. I'm sorry to say that. Right? But in any case, now Salahuddin is really upset. And he orders his forces. Let's gather. Let's, because Ibn Shaddad said, Ya Mawlay la'allu khair. Before they were entrenched, now they have to leave the city. We'll meet them outside the city, and maybe we'll have another battle like Hattin, and we'll win again. Right? So there, عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم. Maybe there is good in this. Salahuddin said, yes, gather the forces, retreat, let them come out. On his way out, Ibn Shaddad describes the situation. A woman comes running, calling the name of Salahuddin. And Frankish woman. Salahuddin stops the army, says, what's wrong? She's crying, she's calling my name, what does she want? They get a translator. And they say the following. She lost her son, her 2 years old. Yesterday, some thieves from the Muslim camp came, sneaked in, snatched her son, and she couldn't get her son back. She went to their kings, Richard and Philippe, and they said, we cannot help you, but go to Salahuddin. He is a compassionate man. He will help you. And Salahuddin said, stop, describe your son. And he said, I know what they're going to do. They're going to go to the marketplace, try to sell him as a slave. Order his soul, go, find him and bring him back. Moments later, you see the soldiers of Salahuddin coming back with a child on their back. And the woman sees the child and she starts crying, hugging the child, pointing to the heavens, pointing up and pointing to Salahuddin and making dua for him. Salahuddin did not let her go. He gave her a horse. Take that horse to take you back. What do you see here? Look at what they said. We can't help you, but go to Salahuddin. He is a man. He is compassionate. He, the Muslim leader, is the one. He will help you. He stopped his army for one woman. The ones that betrayed, the one that, I know, but women and children is different. That's who Salahuddin is. And the next part, Salahuddin goes, by the way, I just have to show you this letter. This is a letter written by Salahuddin in this situation. The letter that he sent to the Muslim Ummah, asking everybody to come and join. And I want you to read it. When you read this letter, there is a very important message in it, right? The way we would speak is what? Look at what they did. They killed people, the Franks, right? Look at the letter, what Salahuddin says. He says, where is the sense of honor of Muslims? The pride of the believers, the zeal of the faithful. Now, look what he's saying. We will never cease to be amazed at how the disbelievers of their part have shown trusts. And it's the Muslims who have been lacking in zeal. Not one of them have responded to the call. They don't intervene to straighten what is distorted. Notice what he's going to say. But observe how the Franks have gone. What unity they have achieved. What aims they pursue. What help they give. What sums of money they borrowed and spent. What wealth they have collected and distributed and divided. There is not a king left in their lands, not a lord or a rich man who has not competed with his neighbors to produce support for their campaign. In defense of the religion, they consider it a small thing to spend life and soul, and they have kept their brothers supplied with arms and champions of war. And all what they have done, all this generosity, is because of their zeal to the religion. On the other hand, the Muslims are demoralized. The Muslims are, what is he saying? What is the message here? Do you see any victimhood? Do you see the bad Franks, bad Richard? Did he say anything bad about the Franks? What did he say about the Franks, by the way? He praised them. He's their enemy, but he's praising what? They're courageous, they're united, they're giving. We have a problem, not they. It is not prophetic. The Prophet ﷺ did never say, look what they did to Bilal, what did they look at the Sumayya, they kill us. Did he ever say that? No. It's not his way. It's a victim mentality. The problem is not them, the problem is us. Reflect on us today. Our message is always, look what they do to us. Look at how oppressive they are. If it's effective, it's effective, but it says where we're at. The problem is not them. They are united. They're ready to spend. They know what they're doing. We, on the other hand, have a problem. This is the letter of Salahuddin. You read it today, the man is speaking to us. Wallahi, it's like as if he's speaking to us. Right? But this is the kind of man he was. Nevertheless, right? And I think I'm going to stop here for a break. What happens next? Right? As Salahuddin predicted, Richard starts marching with his forces all the way, heading to the next city of Jaffa. And Salahuddin decides it is time to lay a trap for them. Let's catch them and let's fight them. He slows their march, attacks day and night. This should take 2 days. It will take weeks for Richard to pass this. But Salahuddin, and we'll stop after this, inshallah, in a place called Arsuf, he lays a trap for the Franks. Arsuf has some forests. There's a foresty area here, and there is the beach area. By the way Richard marched is interesting. He realized Muslims do this encirclement technique. So when he marched by the coast, right? And with the ships on the side. So you can never encircle him. As long as I'm by the beach, you cannot, encircle around me. And he put the knights with their armor on the side facing the Muslims. And ordered the Muslims, order the Franks, do not attack. Focus on where you're going. Do not fall for Salahuddin. Maintain your position, just march. So Salah ad-Din's technique was what? Let's lay a trap for them. There is a forest here. Let's attack them. Maybe they leave their position, come toward us. You see the regular technique? Then we surround them. Again, game theory, like we're discussing that. Again, strategy. And that's what Salah ad-Din did. He ordered his commanders, right? Like, put the knights and the infantry there. The Franks come, right? And they started to harass and attack the Franks. And they charged. And some of the knights of Salah ad-Din, at this point, they're so upset, so zealous, because of what Richard does and what happened to Akka, so fed up. So once they saw them in the battlefield, they started attack, right? And the Crusaders, especially the infantry, got defeated and started retreating. And something happened that was out of the ordinary. For the first time in years, Salah ad-Din forces lost cohesion. They started chasing. And they started chasing the Franks towards the knights, which were by the beach. And the knights wanted to attack. Richard gave the order, not yet, not yet. Let them, let them, let them, let them win, let them win, let them come forward. And the Muslims started, we're winning. And they started attacking and chasing the infantry. And the knights are after them. And at that point, the masters of the Hospitallers, Richard commanded the knights of the Franks to charge full ahead against the ranks of the Muslims. The rank, if you know a knight's charge, you have to be like really well coordinated. They did not achieve cohesion, the Muslim forces, because everybody was for himself, and so they could not withstand the knights attacking. And it is said the army of Salah ad-Din here got a massive blow. They could not resist the knights overwhelmed them. They started, killing especially the infantry, and the Muslim knights started retreating. They could not form around, and they reached Salah ad-Din himself, and Salah ad-Din, all the forces are running, and Mushaddad describes him sitting in the middle, commanding everyone to come back, and it's a complete disarray. He says, I go to the eastern side, I find his brother in the same situation, I go to the right side. It's a massive, massive slaughter. And in the Battle of Arsuf, Salah ad-Din was forced to retreat. It was a major loss for Salahuddin Al-Ayubi. He lost more than 10,000 Muslims in that battle. What was the reason? I want you to see this. It's not that they lack in zeal. You're not coordinated, you fell for your enemy's trap. You do that, you lose. Right? You have to have strategy. Not only strength and zeal, both together. Right? But the Battle of Arsuf, in my opinion, was one of the biggest victory of Salahuddin. Why? Because what happened in Arsuf, next day, Salahuddin gathers his forces, comes back from the forest, and orders them. By the way, when they retreated to the forest, Richard ordered his forces to do what? Stop chasing them. Why? He learned from, you remember in the Battle of Akka, you chase them, then what happens? No, this time, no, don't chase them through the forest, let them be. Return back to your bases, right? So next day, Salahuddin shows up with his forces, round 2. Richard refuses to attack. I'm not falling for it, I'm going for the city of Yafa. They send to Salahuddin, the commanders, the same thing with Nuruddin Zinki, and we'll stop here. Tell him, look, we need money, we need new horses. You're giving so much money to the scholars. Give us the money so we can, remember, Nuruddin, so we can defend them. We need that money that you're giving to the scholars and the schools, so an army. What do you think his response was? The same like Nuruddin Zinki. He said, those people that I give money for, fight for me day and night with arrows that never miss. You want me to give you the money and you fight for me only during the daytime? هل تنصرون إلا بضعفائكم? Do you think victory happens except by their dua? No. They fight for me too. I believe in them. He believed in both. So the answer is no. We need to keep supplying them with money, right? We will face the Crusaders again alone. Now at this point, a switch of strategy, and we'll stop here. Yafa. The commanders of Salahuddin tell him it's time to switch strategy. The strategy is the following. There are too many of them. And they're protected as long as they're by the beach. They want the city of Yafa. Don't attempt to defend the city. It will become another Akka. You will be there, they'll surround us 3 years. No. The best strategy, destroy the city of Yafa. Everybody goes out, we completely destroy it. They reach the city of Yafa, there is nothing left. Then, when they attempt to go to Jerusalem inland, once they go inland, we can surround them again. we can again do the same thing that we did, we will finish them there. It's about Jerusalem. Destroy every city there, concentrate your forces so we can defend Jerusalem. What will happen next? Will Richard the Lionheart succeed in retaking Jerusalem from Salahuddin or not? Inshallah, we'll take a break and then we'll find out when we come for the last session, inshallah.
Yes.
Jazakumullah, 15 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.